we got to see what employers go through every day. When there's a person not here, you still have to go on and work, you still have to get your job done. And it was more difficult, but I'm very happy with the fact that we have Ray back. I'm happy that all the people who went through the all the ones that came back. But I think one of the things we do need to focus on is some of the issues that he's spoken about. I'm real concerned when we have employers that are not giving people their jobs back at the same wages. I just find that more reprehensible. They're serving the country. We all understand that, but I mean, when you sit there and think of what this country did in the 1940s during World War II, there's no question that we should all have a commitment to our country and to those people who serve it and make the sacrifice. You're talking about a person that was injured in the line of duty that you were just speaking to. We have people that lost their lives, that their families have changed forever, and you have other people their lives have changed forever for injuries, or if they have mental trauma because of what's occurred over there. So I think the least we need to do is make sure that their jobs are intact when they come back. So I think that's one of the things we'll do early, and that will be assigned to his committee, and as fast as Ray wants to move that, we'll try to address that as quickly as possible.
Will this be a kind of a minimalist session? I've heard that because of the money concerns, that there may be problems.
No, this is not going to be a minimal concern session. We are going to seriously look at what we can do to increase access to Iowans. We're going to maintain our commitments on education, from early childhood through higher education, and we're also going to try to be fiscally responsible in our budget. And we're going to try to do it in a bipartisan fashion. I know some people, we've been in session an hour and 15 minutes, and I've already heard from several people that it's going to be a do-nothing session. Quite frankly, we expect to still get a lot accomplished this session. And we're not going to adjourn until we feel like we've got the things accomplished that we want to.
The Republicans mentioned marriage, some sort of marriage amendment. I noticed the Democrats didn't mention it.
Well, I can't help but notice that Christopher wants to be a legislator, a judge, and a jury. We need to let the judicial process take its process. This is before the Supreme Court. There's no reason to overreact. And the bottom line is we need to let that process go forward. We don't see the courts in here trying to subvert the legislature. We shouldn't be trying to subvert the judicial process either. So I think that's really the route that we need to let occur at this point.
What do you think about Chuck Culver's plan to increase the bottle deposit and potentially keep some of that money from consumers?
Why don't we wait till he does that tomorrow and we get to see the full picture? I've heard there's going to be a penny, then I heard it was going to be 2 pennies, now I hear it's a dime, and that they're going to be taking 2 pennies. I want to wait to see what's actually in this budget before we react to it.
Are you saying the governor's not talking to you?
Oh no, actually he's visited with us. Actually he had us in before the holidays to visit about it. Both Representative McCarthy and myself were there. Senate leadership was there as well. But we didn't know if that was a for sure thing then. Now I know there were things that were leaked out last week. But we still have to look at the full budget and decide what we're going to do. But I think there's no question that if that's in there, it's got a difficult uphill climb. But let's wait and see what's in it first.
Sounds like momentum's building for local smoking control.
I think we'll debate a bill this year on the floor, but I will tell you this. We will allow debate on the floor. The bill that came out of was it local government last year that had a bunch of exemptions. It had we used the Swiss cheese. There were so many holes in it, it didn't look like Swiss cheese. You couldn't even tell it was cheese. It was just, there was that many holes in it. If we can debate a bill and it has some substance to it, we'll debate it and pass it. But if it ends up having exemptions for bars, restaurants, cabarets, and casinos and everything else, then we will probably defer the bill for another year.
There was a lot of talk last year about how there was just kind of an unpleasant tone to a lot of the debate. So far, you're just a couple hours into the new session. Are you hopeful that things will get better, or is this going to be even worse than last year?
It wasn't our tone. We came in with the plan for prosperity. We talked about doing 16 different things. We did 15 of them. Our goal is to continue to focus on what we can do on those 15 things we talked about last year and make the first step towards addressing commercial and industrial property taxes. That's really our goal. The tone, if you're going to complain about the tone, I think that's more... Usually the minority gets blamed for that. In the past, when we were in the minority, we always focused on 4, 5, 6 issues, and those were the major issues. Maybe last year was more partisan because about half to 2/3 of the major bills required 51 votes on our side to pass. If that's the case this year, we'll continue to work that way, but we want to work in a bipartisan effort with Republicans to move the state forward.
If I can follow up on that, 2 things. One on the issue side of it, and 2 on the bipartisanship side of it. It has historically been the case here in the legislature that whenever the legislature has taken on a major policy initiative, whether it's reducing class sizes or whether it's raising teacher pay, as they did in the 90s, they abandoned that commitment the following year. We did start a process in motion last year, more investment in education, healthcare, and renewable energy. To make this session historic, we're going to maintain those commitments. We're not going to abandon them. We're going to do it in a fiscally responsible way. In terms of bipartisanship, we had more Republicans preside over debate or floor manage bills last year than the previous 10 years combined. We in the minority party being allowed to do so. We reach across party lines on every single one of our bills, and we try to seek bipartisan consensus, and sometimes it doesn't work that way, but we're going to maintain the commitments we made last year. We're going to be smart with the pocketbook, and if we can do that, we're going to take the case to the voters to say we ran on increasing teacher pay and expanding early childhood and making college more affordable and expanding healthcare access and then increasing our investments to renewable energy. We maintain those commitments. The budget is balanced, and then it's up to you voters whether you want to give us another chance at control. But if we don't get another chance at control, it's not going to be because we didn't maintain our commitments.
Plans came in here.
Tapping the rainy day fund to pay for these education commitments, teacher salaries over there.
No, there's no plans to tap rainy day funds. We have the largest amount in our savings account now in Iowa history. Our plan is to keep it that way.
You mentioned you're hoping this year to take the first step with property tax relief. What does that mean? Does that actually mean passing something, or is it more realistic next year?
There's the interim committee meets for 2 years, so there's nothing. They are still going to have another year, but they do have a proposal that instead of looking at commercial and industrial property taxes because they're assessed at 100%, is to look at what other types of fees that city or local government would have to pass to replace commercial industrial property taxes and have a dollar-for-dollar replacement on the commercial industrial property taxes. That's something we're legitimately looking at in regards to debating this year. And I know the Republicans have another proposal out there. We will debate this in all honesty and look at their ideas. We want to do something, and if Republicans want to work with us on it, that's great, because this is something that they had 14 years to work on. They couldn't get anything that could pass the House, pass the Senate, and get approved by a governor. And we want something. We expect it's going to be incremental. We're not going to do something statewide that we don't know what the full effects are. Our goal is to do something incremental, do it on a pilot project basis where we're looking at probably 3 to 5 or 6 cities and counties, both urban and rural, to see if we can get some things that will help that'll make it more business friendly in this state, especially from the perspective of commercial industrial property taxes, so we can attract new business in the state.
Is Chris's warning about that $500 million hidden property tax increase, is he just crying wolf or posturing? Talk about that.
I don't know what the full extent of his remarks are. The bottom line is, they're focusing on spending. Maybe they're focusing on spending, but I will tell you right now, we aren't going to do the same things they did in the 4 years that he was Speaker. Were cuts to education, teachers laid off, tuition rise to a record amount at your institutions of higher learning. We are not going to do that. We're going to maintain our commitment to middle-class families by giving them what they need, which is an opportunity to get an education and make a better life for themselves. That's what I think most people see government as. When it comes to healthcare, we want to do some things in healthcare reform. We want to focus on what we're doing in healthcare and make it more accessible as much as possible.
Kev, your reaction is he Rats talks about $500 million hidden property tax increase.
Well, it's kind of a shell game. One of the things, he's counting overall spending and growth in government, which grows every year because of the cost of living. One of the things we're going to be focusing on this year as well is the infrastructure inequity funding, the so-called silo tax. That would likely have a built-in property tax relief component to it to equalize the formula and then put property tax relief back to the local taxpayers. So it's likely if we can do that, property taxpayers locally would see actually a reduction in their education-related taxes, not an increase.
And here's another example. I think the best example you can come up with is when you look at Medicaid. Medicaid was not funded. The last 4 years prior to us coming in was never funded in the year it was meant. They always walked out of here with anywhere from a $30 to $60 million hole. That $60 million is 1% of that 10% spending that came from last year. And because we funded it all in 1 year, we're actually managing our books better. This is something that the auditor said we needed to do. And so we're following a Republican auditor working on a bipartisan effort with him to balance our budget and to show that we aren't playing the shell game or any of that kind, or smoke and mirrors. We're trying to get it back to fiscally responsible budgeting.